content is intended solely for entertainment and educational purposes. All characters, actions, and references portrayed or discussed herein are fictional or dramatized interpretations of characters from the Marvel Lookism and related media. Kaiseni and all affiliated entities, including but not limited to Kaiseni LLC, do not condone, endorse, promote, or encourage any form of violence, aggression, combat, unauthorized street fighting, public sparring, or any activity that may result in bodily harm, emotional trauma, legal consequence, or general embarrassment. Any attempts to recreate techniques, styles, or behaviors referenced in this video are done so at the sole discretion and risk of the viewer. Kaiseni LLC will not be held liable for any injuries, broken noses, sprained ankles, lost friendships, emotional damage, or unanticipated anime character arcs that may result. Please consult a licensed martial arts instructor, a doctor, or your local therapist, and possibly your mother before engaging in any physical activity inspired by this video. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to another How to Fight, and today we're going to be taking a look at the bogeyman of Lookism, the shadow that haunts every top tier fighter, the man whose name everyone knows but never checks twice, DG, or as we know him, James Lee. He's not just the menace, he's final boss energy. Cold, calculated, and somehow always 10 steps ahead, James Lee doesn't fight for style. He doesn't monologue, he deletes people, and he's the type to knock you out with 3 moves and fix his sleeve before your body even hits the floor. We're talking surgical precision. No wasted motion, no mercy. So today, we're gonna break it all down. His fighting techniques, the prerequisites to even try pulling off what he does, and the single most powerful martial art in Lookism that ended the first generation kings. Spoiler, it's not something you learn at the gym. But real quick, I just launched a brand new Discord server. It's an all new space where you can talk about Lookism, manhwa, movies, and basically anything else you like. You also get to talk to me directly, and trust me, I'm on there way too much, like I should probably go touch grass. And of course, shout out to the Patreon crew. If you want early access, behind the scenes stuff, and your name in the credits like a producer, links down below. The best way to support the channel if you're into that. Alright, now enough stalling, let's talk about the most dangerous man in current Lookism. How to fight like James Lee. Now let's talk about prerequisites, and I don't mean that in the light just do a few push-ups and you're good kind of way. I mean the full package, your physicality, your conditioning, your food, your routine, your discipline, and even your sleep. All of it, because before you even start of dreaming of replicating James Lee's movements, you need to ask yourself one thing. Can your body even handle that type of pressure? And this isn't a game. I've said it before in my breakdowns of Hobbin and Gun. Hobbin needed technique first, physicality later, but Gun needed pure physical foundation before anything else. But James, he's both. He's the duality personified, and the most terrifying thing about James Lee isn't that he's good at one thing, it's that he's good at everything at the same time. You don't just train harder to be like him, you train cleaner, more precise, and more calculated than you have ever trained before. James Lee's body is a machine built for one thing, movement efficiency. He's not bulky, he doesn't have the powerlifter's frame or a wrestler's bulk. He's lean, cut to perfection, sculpted for velocity. Every part of him is optimized for agility, timing, and explosive momentum. But make no mistake, he doesn't lack power. In fact, his entire style is built around turning movement into power. The faster and more efficient he moves, the harder he hits. To get even remotely close to James Lee's level of conditioning, your body needs to strike the absolute perfect balance between strength, flexibility, and endurance. You need to follow a routine that doesn't focus on lifting heavier or running faster, but one that develops coordination, reaction time, fluid control over your own weight, and that means a structured training plan that prioritizes athleticism over ego. Resistance training using compound movements like squats, push-ups, and pull-ups, done but in perfect rhythm. Not rushed, not sloppy, upper and lower body must be trained in near perfect symmetry. If your legs lag behind, your base falls apart, and if your upper body outweighs your core, you lose control mid-motion. On top of everything else, you need to be in the air constantly. Jumping, spinning, flipping your body. Your body has to learn to generate power while airborne. Because James doesn't punch and kick, he launches. And if your joints aren't flexible, if you haven't stretched properly, good luck. You'll be lucky to walk away with your groin intact. Flexibility isn't optional, it's mandatory. James can drop into his splits like it's nothing. He weaves, dodges, and flips overheads and lands strikes in motion without a stutter. That level of flexibility requires daily mobility work, deep stretching, and active range holds. You can't just stretch for 5 minutes before bed and expect to copy him. You need to treat your mobility like a skill in itself. But here's the brutal part. Being too much of anything can ruin your progress. Being too muscular can ruin all of this if you chase size over control. Your range of motion shortens and you'll struggle with the precision his movements require. Try a jump spin with 30 pounds of extra bulk on your frame, and you're either going to gas out in 10 seconds or snap your ACL. On the flip side, being too flexible without strength is just as dangerous. You might look smooth and acrobatic, but in practice, you're basically a pool noodle. You'll bend, twist, and fly, but your attacks won't land any real impact. All that motion becomes dead weight without control. And wind-up strikes? Pointless if you can't stop them on a dime, right at the moment they're supposed to explode on someone's jaw. James' strength isn't just in how far he can stretch or how fast he can spin. It's that he can tense and release at the exact perfect frame. If you're too soft, your momentum just fizzles. And it's like winding up a punch for 2 seconds and then slapping someone with a feather. Without the structure behind it, the impact dies before it connects. That's why James Lee isn't just flexible, he's controlled. And control, that body tightening, impact snapping whip-like stop, is what separates a gymnast from a killer like James Lee. Fighting like James isn't about looking strong, it's about being strong in a way that doesn't sacrifice movement. You need to build a frame that can pivot, launch, contort, and explode without falling apart under its own complexity. It's not enough to just be fit, you have to be a blank canvas capable of being repainted every second. His fighting style isn't something you layer on top of a regular body, it's something you build towards, from the ground up. So if you're serious about it, then here's the truth. To move like James Lee, to hit like James Lee, and to survive like James, you need to be perfect. Not fit for a normal guy perfect, not above average perfect, but by perfect by design. Perfection that moves, breathes, and adapts like a living weapon. And that's just a prerequisite. His experience is something completely insane. When I say James Lee has expansive experience, I mean expansive. We're talking over a decade, maybe more, of real-time combat against the most unconventional and dangerous fighters of his era in the first generation. From speed blitzers he outblitzed to unstoppable forces he dismantled. James has faced it all. His knowledge knows zero bounds. Obviously, in the real world, you're not gonna find characters straight out of Lookism, but anomalies do exist. There are fighters in real life who specialize in obscure disciplines, unconventional footwork, weird timing, and unorthodox pressure. And what makes James so insane is that he doesn't switch up styles to adapt. His style is already all-encompassing. He is the textbook definition of a perfect all-rounder. He's never lacking, never behind, in speed, strength, or technique. And honestly, I think being a true all-rounder is harder than mastering a single discipline. You don't just have to be good at one thing, you have to be great at everything. Physicality, experience, and technical mastery. In every single branch of fighting, James nails all of it. One of the biggest criticisms all-rounders get is that they're a jack of all trades, master of none. But with James Lee, that criticism doesn't apply. He's the exception. He's the master of all. Now, usually in these how to fight videos, we separate experience as its own category, like with Gun, where experience builds from his insane physicality, or Hobbin, where theory and repetition fuel his mastery. But James, experience is a prerequisite. You don't work up to it, it's something you need from the start. That's how high the bar is for this guy. Now, obviously, there's no way to objectively know if you've hit that level, but the idea is, if you're training like James, if you're building that kind of adaptability, timing, and situational awareness, you won't just win fights, you'll end them before they even start. Not because you're lucky, but because you know that much better. And in fact, you won't just be better, you'll be perfect. Now, finally, the part that everyone waits for. Are James Lee's flashy, acrobatic techniques even remotely possible in real life? And, well, as always with these videos, the answer is no. Not in the way they're shown, at least. What James does isn't exaggerated, it's stylistic, it's cinematic. But because I love you guys, I'm not just gonna shut it down. You know, I always find a way to translate these impossible feats into something grounded in the real world. So, let's break it down. Starting with what James is most known for, his invisible attacks. Now, in the world of Lookism, invisible attacks are blows thrown with such absurd speed and precision that they're untraceable. The opponent doesn't even register what happened until they're already on the ground. And while that does sound completely unrealistic, the concept behind it isn't just real, it's a principle found in multiple martial arts. Speed, timing, and target selection taken to the highest possible level. And in essence, you strike when the opponent least expects it. You aim for parts of the body they're not protecting. We're talking areas like behind the ear, the neck, the diaphragm, and knees, places that are both sensitive and hard to guard. What James does is exploit every human blind spot. every lapse in attention, and he does it with body mechanics so clean they're practically silent. He doesn't switch styles or spam techniques. His entire fighting language is about ending the fight before it even begins, and in real life, that's a terrifyingly effective mindset to carry. It's not flashy, it's not dramatic, it's cold, clean, and efficient. And yes, you could replicate that mindset in the real world, but only if you're perfect. And I mean that in the most unforgiving way possible. You can't just be fast, you can't just be accurate, you have to be all of it all at once. You need strength, control, speed, and timing, and most importantly, awareness. You need to train yourself to read your opponent like a book before they even throw a punch, so you already know where and when to shut them down. You need to strike like lightning and leave no trace. Because fighting like James Lee, there is no second move, there's no back and forth, no learning curve, it's just move, hit, and done. If you're not ready, if you don't have control, you'll swing and miss, and worse, if you swing too hard, too wide, you'll leave yourself open. That's why the gap between fiction and reality matters. You're not just training to hit fast, you're training to hit with crucial surgical intent, and that takes years of reps, of failure, of study, and years of sacrifice. But you get it, right? If you train to that level of precision where your entire body listens to every twitch in your opponent's shoulder, every slip in their guard, every mistake in the rhythm, then yeah, you might just hit invisible too. Because that's what it means to fight like James Lee. So that about covers the basics on how to fight like James Lee. He's the peak in every sense of the word. And if you really want to fight like him, you have to be perfect. But that's about it. Thank you guys so much for giving me your eyeballs for like 10 minutes, 11 minutes, and make sure to join the all new Discord server. And yeah, be sure to check out the Patreon. Have a good day, Gite Glizzy Gulpers, and so yeah.